Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of the World with Nate podcast. This podcast was created to shed light on some of the stories and lessons that we accrued during our time here. My hope is that those stories will bring us all together in this thing that we all call life. My hope for this podcast episode is that you find it both enlightening and enjoyable. So, sit back and relax. I want you to enjoy the ride. Special thanks to my friend Buck Kern of Hawkeye Storage and Consulting for helping me bring Season 2 of The World with Nate to YouTube. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 2. I have another amazing guest I want to share with you today. Her name's Ashley Nate, and I came across her on the world of social media first, and then I realized that her husband was someone I've known for years. When I first came across Ashley, there were some things I loved about her. What I love about you, Ashley, is your infectious personality. You are always in an amazing mood, which if I can draw some of that, I'm going to. You're a goal setter, and with that, you're a dreamer. And I love that because I'm a dreamer as well. But you're also a doer, and you get things done. You get shit done, and I love that. So I'd like to cover all those things and tell people a little bit about you and your story. One of the things that stuck out, I had shared with you that when I came up with the World with Nate podcast name, I believe that there's a lot in a name, and I think we share some of that. Explain to me why you came up with the name Almond Tree Properties for you and your husband's property business.
Yeah, so I grew up in Central California, and I actually, during my middle school years, we lived out in the country in the middle of an almond orchard. So that's kind of where, I guess otherwise I don't know if I would have ever thought like almond tree, almond blossom. So that's kind of some background to actually having that be in my mind. But, and we loved living in that property. It was just, Justin and I would love to get out into the country someday. And I think a large part of why I want that so bad is how much that aspect of my childhood was just like our favorite house, our favorite location. It was just beautiful. But anyways, so that's kind of some background of where like the idea came from. But so then when we started, for some reason, I don't know if I had read it somewhere or if I just decided to Google it or, what happened. But I came to realize there's actually a lot of symbolism in the almond tree. And almond tree blossoms. And the reason, so they're known to be a symbol, commonly known of resurrection, and new life and new beginnings. And
Heck yeah.
The reason for that is that the almond tree blossoms before anything else, often in the dead of winter, sometimes still in like February, the almond tree will start blossom. So it's kind of like that sign of new life, sign of spring coming, sign of like, even as the seasons change, when you have a rough season, say winter, that better times are right around the corner and that new life and new beginnings are right around the corner. So it kind of symbolizes that. And so we felt in terms of our real estate business, how that could kind of tie in with what we're doing is, if we were renovating a property, which I'll talk about that, we did that one once,
Yeah.
but brings it to life. To even the idea of us starting this business in general is kind of us having a new beginning and kind of resurrecting into these new people who are all of a sudden entrepreneurial, which this is a new thing. We've been married for will be 9 years this summer, but the first 5 years of our marriage, I don't feel like we really thought of us as ever pursuing something entrepreneurial in the future. It just kind of, the puzzle pieces came together and it just sort of happened. So, resurrecting ourselves, our properties, resurrecting people out of tough situations with what my husband is doing with buying houses with seller financing. We've done lease to own, for those that can't maybe get a traditional mortgage where you can lease it to them that way. And so there's just so many ways that you can look at real estate as resurrecting. So that's where the name Almond Tree Properties came from. Sometimes we call it ATP, just us, but because it is kind of its mouthful. But
I love it.
Yeah, the story behind it is cool.
Yeah, when you shared the pictures of that property and almond trees, I was ignorant to that, being a Midwestern kid and never
I
spending
imagine
time.
most people are.
Yeah. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Heck
yeah. Just rows and rows. I mean, it was beautiful, not when they were blossoming, but then when they would blossom, it was like a heaven.
A different level.
Yeah.
Heaven.
It
That's
really
a good
was.
thing for it.
So
I think it's very fitting for what you guys are doing. And that was some of the, Justin reached out to me in the beginning of the podcast and asked if I knew anyone within the real estate game. And I wasn't really sure what you guys were doing. And since then, this was 2 years ago now, we watching what you guys are doing. It's amazing and it's awesome and encouraging. And, you know, the entrepreneurial game, it's crazy how sometimes, you know, life throws us those curveballs. And it's a decision. And then that decision leads to something that, did you ever expect you'd be where you are now?
No, probably not.
Right. You went to school for what?
So I went to UNI, and I was never really somebody who knew what they wanted to do. I always kind of admire people who like grew up in elementary or in high school. Same. And they're like, I'm going to college for this. And then they did, and they went to college for 4 years. They graduated in that. They're doing it now and they love it. I was always kind of like, I don't know what I like. So when I was in high school, I remember thinking I was going to be an optometrist. That like quickly went away. I don't know.
That was just the flavor.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea.
When I would read old papers that I wrote about it, I was like, well, I just think eyes are really pretty. Like, I don't know. I don't think I really
talking yourself into it.
Yeah. I don't think I really had a lot of thought into it. Well, my dad's a doctor. He's a urologist. So I think that maybe that's why I was kind of thinking the health field, but I never really cared much for my science classes too much. It just wasn't like my top favorite thing to learn about. So I figured probably not a good idea to go into that field then. So anyways, I went in undecided. And then I was kind of thinking in my head I was going to do math education because I always really loved my math classes in high school and I always really thrived in math. So
I wish I could have sat next to you.
Yeah, I was always tutoring friends and that sort of thing. So I did like just one semester of calculus in college, and I was like, never mind. I don't want to do this
that turned that off real quick.
Yeah. And so
that's awesome.
Then I switched to finance. So I had a cousin that graduated from UNI in finance. He did really well, and I figured that also still involves math and business and all of that. And I was really involved in high school in our DECA, like the business club. So, and I did take a lot of business classes in high school. So it wasn't like business was a new realm. It was actually something I kind of explored. So I did finance for a little while. I did end up keeping that as a degree, but so I had finance and then I added real estate as a double major also. A lot of people did that at UNI. Finance real estate was kind of a pretty common double major. But it wasn't really like anything related to what I'm doing in real estate right now. I feel like it was a lot more like the commercial side of things and development and so I did that. I joined clubs. I interned at Aegon in Cedar Rapids as a real estate and economic research sort of intern. And then I interned in Minneapolis as appraisal and property management intern. But granted, those are both, like I said, it was all like commercial properties, it wasn't really anything related to residential, which is funny because I always said I would not touch residential real estate or being an agent because I was just really introverted and just the thought of having to be salesy. Yeah, no, I mean, being introverted is like what my innate thing is. And I've been crushing through years of trying to break through that.
I've seen some of it.
I grew up shy and I feel like that's still deep down there. But I mean, one thing I'll say about myself is I'm always working to get out of my comfort zone and discover what I want. I'm going to keep pushing forward and trying rather than just being this is how it is. So I was doing the real estate thing. I had that internship in Minneapolis, and that was the breaking point where I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I'm working in cubicle jobs. I'm a senior in college. I'm about to graduate with a major, and I don't like what I'm doing. So like my whole college experience was just like to get to this point and go out into the world and like hate my job, you know? And so
Right.
I was like, what do I do? Because I'm a senior now though. And so I kind of kept thinking about education still. And I was like, is there even a chance for me to do that at this point? I mean, I'm running out of time here.
The clock's ticking.
So I went and met with an advisor. And I think I had brought up math, and she's like, well, how about business teaching? Because you've already taken the business core classes. So you already have that. You just have to do the education classes, and kind of mapped it all out for the way that would work. So I was like, yeah, like, let's do that. So I kept my finance degree because I was so far along in it. There was no point in not getting it.
Right.
And I also felt like I wanted to have both and like have that in case, you know, I wanted to switch. I felt like it made me have a lot more options.
Yeah.
But then I dropped the real estate aspect of my major and then added business teaching, stayed a little bit longer. Well, and it's funny because I feel like in hindsight, if doing business teaching makes a lot more sense for me and than math teaching. So it's just kind of funny how at the time was so like, oh, I just wasted all this time and
right.
you know, just why is this happening to me? Everybody else is graduating. But then now looking back, it's like I had to go for business education and then switch to finance and then do those internships in the cubicle and not like them to get to this point. Like all of those things had to happen. And I feel like that's kind of a common theme that I've noticed in my life is that either things will like come full circle or that, you know, things that didn't work out initially, I'm like now seeing, oh, well, it makes complete sense because it all makes sense now. And if it doesn't make sense now, just got to wait a little longer because there will be some point when you're like, I can see exactly like, okay, God, I know what you did there. Like, this is why that happened to bring me to this point. So, I ended up graduating with business teaching and finance and then student taught in West Des Moines and liked the Des Moines area. And so looked for jobs around there and found Indianola, and that's kind of where I landed.
That's close to Des Moines.
Right. Yeah. It's
Indianola.
like 20 minutes south of Des Moines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say, so I don't believe in coincidence. And when you're saying, you know, seeing things come full circle.
Yeah.
And things like that, there's a lot of that's happened in my personal life as well. And you had mentioned faith. It seems like that plays a very important part in your life. Is that something that's been there forever, or is that something that you've developed?
I would say, I mean, it's always been there. I grew up with a family that went to church every Sunday, but it's been kind of like up and down depending on the point I'm at in life. You know, when I was in middle school, I feel like I was really into it. I went, you know, to the Wednesday nights and I would bring friends there. And like, then when I moved from California to Iowa when I was a freshman. And we still went to church every Sunday, but I feel like my like level of commitment into it fell a lot more because, you know, you're in high school. I'm more concerned with my friends, my mom, my parents, you know, always wanted me to do Young Life and have Young Life things at my house. And I'm like, you know, like, and then even into college, when I was in college, honestly, I didn't really go to church on Sundays. There was probably like a handful of times I went to church in Cedar Falls. I mean, like 2 times total. I would go when I was back home with my parents, which is so weird to think about now because that's such a huge aspect of my life right now to think that I didn't have that. And if I did, I think it would have helped. Yeah, exactly. I think if I had kept that a part of my life, it would have helped me through some anxiety and things that I had, you know, especially in those end years when I was really worried about graduating and not knowing if I liked what I was doing or if I was making the right choices. I think it could have really helped. But, you know, we all kind of go through that, or I know a lot of people do. And so when I was student teaching in West Des Moines, then I went to Church of Hope, a big church up here, and I really liked that one. And then I just felt like every time I went, because I had a lot of anxiety during student teaching, and then like that first year teaching, any teacher will tell you is really, really hard, because you're getting used to, if you're, probably any level, but especially high school, getting used to the content. I was teaching accounting, and I had taught, I had taken like a accounting course in college,
Right.
and now I'm teaching
and now
that.
you're supposed to be
Yeah.
subject matter expert.
So, and then pair that with how to manage students and keep order. And so like, there's all of these things. And so, I think bringing church back into my life really helped me through those times. And then slowly over time, now we never miss a Sunday. Last year, it was one of my goals to not miss a Sunday. I made it through all year. I was going to go for 2, and then I got COVID. But
no, you got COVID. I read that. I read that.
I know.
You can give yourself grace on that, Ashley.
Yeah, I know. It was funny because I told my mom, I'm like, now I'm going to miss church, and I haven't missed church in over a year. She's like, that's the first thing I thought of. I knew you would be so mad.
Awesome.
But it's
that's
fine.
cool,
I
though.
watched it online, but
exactly.
But yeah, I think when you go consistently and you really make that a part of your life versus just saying, there's a lot of people that like, yeah, I have faith, I believe, but then like, that's where they don't do anything beyond that, like going to church, reading their Bible, getting in a home group, or, doing those extra things. You can still have a deep faith, but I think it makes all the difference when you're actually having that faith and then doing those actions to surround yourself with those people in church, in small groups outside of church, and all of that. And I think I can see such a huge change in my life from that.
I can say the exact same thing as someone who did not have faith, and then I've been working at it actively and doing the things you just spoke about, joining the men's groups and doing the activities and reading your Bible, and it completely changed my life.
Yeah, it makes it all the difference when you start doing those things, I feel like. And I realized later that all of these kind of entrepreneurial things that we were doing, I feel like a lot of them started close after, like we really started pressing into church and having a home group and just really making sure that we went every single Sunday. And I feel like things really started taking off. And I always preface that to say, it's not, God doesn't reward people for going to church. Like, well, I'm a good girl and I go to church, and that's why. But I think that when you do that, it changes like your energy and your choices and your outlook. Yes. Yeah, it changes all of these things that have a ripple effect. So like, I always don't want people to think that I'm trying to say like, I'm better and God's rewarding me. That's not it at all. It's just like, it starts this chain reaction.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
So. I love that because I am the last person who's going to throw a stone. I am the sinner just like everybody else.
Yep.
But what it has done for me is what I can speak about. And I was not a believer. And now I am stone cold 100% sold on what I believe and the power in it. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that with me and with the listeners. They're going to get a lot out of that. I think. That was awesome.
So.
Hell yeah. So you got a master's degree. You followed that into education.
Yes. So as I taught, like about my second year, I talked about how when I was in high school, I had done DECA, which is like a business club. Kind of think of it as like FFA to ag. DECA is to business. It's really similar.
Of course, being from Iowa.
Yeah. I'm like, it's the easiest way to explain it. It's a student organization. There's competitions. You go to leadership things, that sort of thing. So
Gotcha.
I started that program my second year, and that really, I always tried to find things that kind of would like spark a light in me to like, just, keep the fire going in education. Yeah. So, I grew that program really big. We were the largest chapter in the state, I think like 3 or 4 years after I had started it. So that was a lot of fun. And so, I got to like my 5th year, and then that's when I had got pregnant with Everett. And I was like, well, if I'm going to I still didn't know if people would have asked me, do you think that you're going to teach all the way, through the rest of your career? I honestly was like, no. like and I don't want to say that to be, I don't know, sound bad to my teacher friends or anything. I just knew I didn't want to do it forever.
It wasn't for you.
Yeah, I just knew I liked doing it. I learned so much from it. It was a great experience. I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have those experiences. I just always kind of knew I didn't want to do it forever. I just didn't know what I was going to do though. So I just, keep going along. And so I figured, well, if I'm going to keep doing this, I might as well get my master's, because so that was kind of, I'm like, well, if you get your master's, they pay you more. I'm like, might as well dig in a little bit more into education, and might as well do it, before we have any more kids, because it's really time consuming. So, I was trying to ask Justin last night. I'm like, was I pregnant with Everett when I was working on that? I think it was kind of a little bit before, and then a little bit when he was a baby. But I mean, I just took 2 classes every single semester, fall, spring, summer, back to back to back. And I think I knocked it out in like 2.5 years. I was just I want to go as fast as I could go. That's feasible, because you can only do so many classes outside of working full time at once. But
right.
So I got through that. I got my master's. We had Everett. And then I feel like I was just kind of like itching for something different. And I couldn't put in all of the energy that I was initially when we had a baby. I feel like I was missing school because he was sick and I had to stay home. We don't have any family in the area. And so I was staying home with him. It's really hard to do sub plans. And like the late nights, I mean, I used to work until like 6 every night. That was just what I did. But then when you have a baby, things change. You have to get them from daycare, and you're just like, your priorities change. And so you just kind of pull back a little bit. Not that I was less of a teacher. I was also just a lot better at doing things and getting things done. I was a lot more efficient. But yeah, I feel like I was feeling a little bit like, okay, I'm ready for maybe something different. So I think it's like maybe 5-6 years in, I kind of had 2 changes. So first thing that I got into that kind of sparked something in me was a friend. Well, actually it was like just a Facebook friend. I didn't know her super well. But had reached out to me online about, doing a business with her and la, la, la. Everybody knows those messages. And I was always like avoiding everything like that.
I've sent them and I've got them. So I mean, we can talk as much shit as we want about them.
Yeah. If you've been there, you get it. So I mean, I had always ignored everything, but this one was about a business that related to wine. And so I was like, maybe this is the one thing I could actually say yes to and do these network marketing things that you're doing. And so that's what sold me was the product. And I think that at some level deep down, I was looking for some sort of an outlet. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are looking for when they do those. And a lot of people who said I would never do that or make fun of people are people who will end up wanting to find that outlet later. And they do find that outlet in a group of people. Like it's almost, I had heard from someone said once, like that network marketing is just personal development with a compensation plan. And that's really what it was for me. It wasn't even necessarily about the money, but that was the moment, that experience, that like this light bulb turned on in my head for entrepreneurship and the flexibility and the freedom that could provide. So I joined that business and kind of jumped in, feet first. And like many people do, it sounds like you have some experience, messaged everybody and their mom. And I had parties and I went to events. So the girl that I had joined under, about like 2-3 weeks after I had joined, I mean, I really jumped head in. I ended up buying tickets last minute to go to their conference in Vegas. I met her in the airport. Never had met her before. Got on the plane, stayed with her and her husband in their Airbnb on the floor in a blow up mattress. But oh my gosh, that was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had, going to Vegas with a bunch of people. And what really struck me about that environment is just, and this is kind of what you had said about me earlier, is that they were just all dreamers and positive. And
I love it.
I feel like I hadn't really ever been in that atmosphere like that before. And that's what really drew me to it, was just the positivity and how much it like pushed you to get out of your comfort zone. And so that was kind of the first big thing. So I did that for a little while, a couple of years, made a little bit of money, and just, really grew from here to here in terms
personal
of my
development
mindset and like just the way that I saw things. Like I all of a sudden I just saw opportunities everywhere where I used to be like, no, where I used to see risk and people being annoying, or, like my whole perspective changed where I started to see opportunity and everything. And that's that's not everybody sees that. And until you like somehow get yourself to that point that light bulb goes on, then, I feel like there's always people on the other side that are like, I don't know, they just don't get it, but maybe sometimes they will in their life, but where you start seeing those opportunities. So I had that going on. And then I got pregnant with our second son, Freddie. And also,
why would you slow down, right?
I know.
Slow down in life?
And then get this. So then also, I had said I was kind of like itching to do something different, but I had just got my master's, and I wasn't ready to leave a full-time job and to leave education necessarily. I just kind of wanted to do something different outside of the classroom. So first, I had interviewed and applied for a instructional coaching job at the high school where you kind of mentor other teachers.
Okay.
I interviewed for that. I didn't get that one. Another instructional coach job came up that was district-wide, and it was for, it's called integrated core, I think is what they had called it, which is exactly what I do as a business teacher. So the integrated core is like the classes, like electives and other fine arts areas that integrates the core concepts in by, adding them into real life areas. And so I was like, oh, like, okay, God, I see why I didn't get that first one, because you wanted me to do this one, because this one is perfect for me, because integrated core, like that is my passion, is elective classes and real, being able to expose students to the real world and those sorts of things. And interviewed for that one and didn't get it again. Oh. And I was like, just feeling really defeated and just kind of like awkward for people who knew that I did that. Like, I don't know, it just feels like a big slap in the face, And so, so then I was on this committee for, we are adding this computer science curriculum into our high school business department. And so I was like on a committee for that. So I kind of knew the curriculum director at the time pretty well. And she knew that I had technology skills and spreadsheets and could make videos and things like that. So she had pulled me aside at one of our meetings and was like, there's a new job coming up. It's called the Elementary At-Risk Coordinator. And I was like, yeah, what? Like, I teach high school and also at risk. Like, I don't know anything, about at risk or elementary. Right. And she's like, well, let me explain it. Like, it just has a lot to do with collecting data and being able to, organize, literacy and math data and get that out to administrators, and so it's like things that how to do because you have those skills. And I had those skills from my finance internships. And so I ended up interviewing for that job and was kind of like, I swear to God, if I don't get this. And so, but then I ended up getting that job. And again, it's another example though of like things coming full circle, because the whole reason that I got that job was having like the spreadsheet skills and analytical and data skills that I had. And the only reason I had those was from my internship experience when I was doing finance and real estate. So it's just kind of funny how it came like that. Big picture. Yeah. And so, and what I do in my current job now, I'm using all of these formulas and, nerdy things, but all of these things that I learned then. And I'm like, I would have never known how to do any of those, nor would have I had this opportunity. And also I feel like it was just better suited for me anyway. So it's another example of like, I don't know why God had to give me 2 strikes. Like, come on, just one would have been good. But it's like, okay.
Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if we got to decide that?
Yeah, I know. This one was waiting for me. And so, so yeah, I was doing network marketing a little bit, got pregnant with Freddie, and then added changed jobs. And then
Heck yeah.
Justin changed jobs too.
Dang.
And then that brings me to the other thing we were doing at the time, which is where we got into real estate.
Right.
And so
that's a lot at one time.
Yeah,
while you're trying.
We go big or go home.
I like it.
But like the thing is, it sounds like a lot, and it is. It's a lot. I think we just both are people that we like to stay busy and always have new challenges in front of us. But it's also all of these things were happening over time. So we were just, taking the next step, and things were happening. But It's not like on a daily basis we were like running around with chickens with our head cut off or anything. It was all of these things kind of slowly came together, and they were happening simultaneously, but it wasn't like there was like a ton of things that we were doing at once all in one day. I feel like
How did you keep your mental health and stuff steady while you were going through those changes? What sort of things did you do?
I think just the excitement of everything was enough. And then also, like we already talked about at length, is just my faith. I was I've always had a lot of faith and hope for the future, and just kind of trusted that everything was going to come to be as it was going to come to be. And I think sometimes you just if you're not in that zone, or you're tired, or you're not in a good mental state, sometimes I think you do just have to, take that night off. Things are going to be fine if you don't get that Instagram post up for your brand. It's not going to be the end of the world. Sometimes I'll just get myself stressed out thinking I need to do this right now. But a lot of times if you ask yourself, you don't really need to do that thing right now. And if you're struggling and you're in a bad mindset, sometimes the best thing is just to walk away, just let it be, go be with the kids, go watch Netflix, read a book, whatever, come back to it tomorrow, and you'll be able to do it a lot better and in a better state of mind anyways. But I think the number one thing that has helped me is just that phrase, one day at a time. You just have to remember, just always ask yourself, what do I need to do right now for tomorrow? Instead of getting so worked up over the big picture of what you're working towards and everything that has to happen to get to this final destination. It's yes, that's a lot, but you're not doing that all today. Just do what you need to do today. Tomorrow, do what you need to do tomorrow. And just, I feel like whenever I start getting stressed, and I feel like that's where a lot of stress comes from for a lot of people, is just you see all of these things. It feels like you have this crippling overwhelm feeling, and then you just don't do any of it. But you just have to, pick something, just do what you need to do today. I remember when I wrote maternity leave plans for Everett. So that was the only time I had written those, because that was another great thing about when I switched roles was that when I was on maternity leave, it was that I was in the new position. So I wasn't in the classroom anymore, so I didn't have to write lesson plans. But that's a lot of work. And I just remember sitting at my desk one night, just ready to cry, because I'm how am I going to put together all of this? But then I'm just remember, I don't need to do it today. I'm just going to do 2 lessons tonight. I'll do a little bit tomorrow, a little,
Heck yeah.
Just kind of the way to think about things, and just remember that things happen. You'll just problem solve along the way, and you'll slowly get there.
Well, sometimes another thing that you do an amazing job of is your goal setting. I love that too.
Yeah, I feel like that's a newer thing, but I did do that last year, and it was really fun to look at the end of the year. And then, so this year I was I need to do that again, where I write it all out, and holds me a little bit more accountable. And
it does.
Yeah. And
it gives you guidance for where you're trying to go in the future. Right.
Yeah. And I think sometimes just recognizing the changes that you're making and the habits that you're doing. I mean, one time I had a lot of success with doing a workout plan by just saying I was going to do 30 minutes a day for 30 days. This was sometime last year I had done this. And I feel like you have, for me, having habit goals or streak goals or things like that are just ways to stay motivated, because otherwise if your goal is only that very end picture, then what's there to celebrate along the way? You have to have those celebrations along the way of, oh, I did this for 5 days, for 10 days, for 20 days, or just noticing changes in yourself, and celebrating that you took the first step, or that you're at this point, rather than waiting all the way to the end to say, okay, I finally did it. To recognize, like, I remember when we started, and we'll get to this later, but when we had decided, okay, for real, we're going to buy a short-term rental. I mean, the first step was just getting a pre-approval, like actually just putting some like action in motion to move the ball forward versus talking about it. And I think I had done a post about that and just celebrating, like, we did it, we got pre-approved. Like,
Heck yeah.
You have to celebrate those little steps along the way. And I think that's a big part of staying motivated, is celebrating all those small wins.
I love it. And personally, I don't find much motivation or inspiration in what society deems as typical, like whoever's the hot thing right now. I can't even say, and I'm not going to say who I would think, because it will age me and make me look stupid. But I find inspiration and motivation in people like yourself who do those sort of things and set those goals and crush them. And then if you don't, you reflect and you talk about why you didn't and the issues that came up during, because guess what? We're all human, and it happens to all of us. People set goals and miss them more so than they hit them.
Right.
And that's not always shared, And I appreciate your authenticity.
Yeah, I think it's good to share the journey. And I mean, there will be sometimes where I question it. Even that goalpost, honestly, I had written up for a long time, but I was just kind of like holding off. I'm like, I don't want to post that. I posted something positive or like, inspirational yesterday, or like I talked about how we just got the LJ Kai up in like recently. I don't want to post these right now, because then everybody's going to think I'm being braggy. And sometimes you kind of get in your head and worry about that. But it's like, I mean, I can't help if there's certain people that do think that about me. But I mean, all I'm trying to do through sharing our journey is to be able to inspire somebody else. And a lot of times when I'm feeling like I should stop doing that, I'm being too much, then those will be the times that, someone shows up in my inbox and is like, I just want to let you know I decided to start this business. And a large part of it is because you inspired me. And you're like, what? And so then it's just that reminder from God to like, you are helping people through sharing your story, and don't get in your head and worry about people are going to think that, oh, she's arrogant or she's bragging. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. And also, you don't even know everything that like we've done and all of the times we've tripped and, had issues getting to this point, and how much, what our insecurities are because of we're looking at people, so you just can't let that worry you. And there's a lot of people that are,
that's important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I preach all the time, like, oh, don't worry about what people think, and, to be you easy, and la, la, la. And I'm like, I feel like half the times if people read my posts, they should know I'm writing to myself many times, because these are the same things that I'm worried about. If I'm preaching about, just being yourself and being unashamedly you and not worrying, it's because I have those same struggles of worrying that people are going to think I'm being too much or too over the top, or I'm annoying people. And so it's something we all deal with, but.
Hell yeah. That was a very strong sentiment. Well, one thing that I want to assure you of is to never feel that way, because I am your biggest TikTok fan. Me and my wife love seeing your content on TikTok. Well, if you were close, I would have you be helping me create podcast content.
I've had someone else ask me that before, and
you
I'm like,
kill
really?
it on TikTok. Yeah. Well, see, that self-talk's got to get out of there.
Exactly.
Hell yeah. But, I love it.
But yeah, I mean, I think I started to say, so I started that new job, well, both of us new jobs, baby. Right, I did the network marketing for a little bit. And then as that kind of slowed down when I was pregnant, I remember I was selling wine. So I was kind of like, but then that's when we kind of started looking into real estate. We were listening to like Bigger Pockets podcast. It's the big real estate investors podcast. So we were listening to that a lot. I had actually bought a wholesale sort of program and kind of got interested into what wholesaling was. Okay. And then we had gone to this 3-day Fortune Builders real estate investing sort of conference, I don't know, information thing. Like, so we were just kind of doing things, and these things are costing money too. And I think it's important for people. A lot of people shy away from that because they're like, oh, they just want my money, or like, oh, $500 to go and learn about this thing or get this person's course. Like, I'm not going to do that. But a lot of where we got to today is because we weren't afraid to invest some money and drop some hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars into masterminds and that sort of a thing. And a lot of people shy away from that, but I would encourage people to not shy away from that. And I mean, you don't put much thought into spending $200 at Target. So why are you putting like so much thought into spending $200 on something that can help you level up? So
hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we were doing those sorts of things. And then we had started Almond Tree Properties. We got all the LLC paperwork and everything in. And so then I saw on Zillow, we knew we wanted to buy a rental, but we didn't know how the heck we were going to do it. We didn't have just thousands of dollars in the bank just to make a down payment on something. So
there are a lot of people who find themselves in that. Like,
right.
Hey, I want to do this, but maybe this sets in the way or this sets in the way. And so you found yourself
I think
in
with
that
real estate, especially because they're like, how am I going to do it if I don't have money for a down payment? And then you just don't do anything. Because I feel like we would have done it maybe like 3 years earlier, but we were like, well, we don't have any money for a down payment, so never mind.
So
never mind. Well,
Ashley.
Yeah, we've done a lot of creative things. So what we did is, I found this 5-plex on Zillow. And I was like, I feel like this is not super expensive and we can afford this. And I feel like it looks like it's profitable and it's by Simpsons. So Simpson students would probably rent it, which is definitely not our target market. But that's what I thought, or like, that's not how it works. But that's what I thought at the time. So we're like, well, let's call and go and take a look. I mean, as a realtor, normally when you show properties, you're like, do you have a pre-approval? Like, do you have everything ready? Right. And we're like, we have no idea we're going to buy this. Yeah, we didn't tell the owner that. Well, so it was listed for sale by an owner and we didn't have a buyer's agent. So both parties were unrepresented, which is kind of funny now because now I'm a realtor and just,
you wouldn't
it's like, that
that
seems pretty risky to do it that way, but whatever.
Yeah.
So Justin looked at it and we were interested. And so then we're like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? So we're like, well, let's just call the bank, I guess, and, see what our options.
Ask the questions.
Yeah. And that's, again, where a lot of people get held up because they just automatically like dismiss that because they think they can't do it instead of taking the first step. And when I preach a lot about taking the first step, it doesn't mean buy the property. Like the first step is like find out what you need to do to get there, like make some calls and then make a plan. And so he talked to the lender. We found out about doing a cash out refinance. So basically, if you have a lot of equity in your house, which we had because we bought low and we had lived there for a little bit, you can take cash out of that equity and then basically refinance to a new loan for a higher amount. So you kind of like wrap that cash that you took out into a new loan. So say you had a house that was worth $200,000 and you owed $100,000. So you have $1,000 or $100,000 of equity there. Most banks will let you do a cash out refinance for up to 80% of the value of the house. Sometimes they'll go higher. So if the house is worth $200,000, 80% of that would be $160,000. So that $160,000 to the $100,000 you have on your current loan, that's $60,000 you can take out in cash.
For a down payment on a home.
Right. That was our intention. You can take it out for whatever reason.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can
as long as you pay the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't suggest doing it for fun money, but we were doing it.
No, we're talking about real estate investment here and getting leveling up.
I wouldn't suggest buying a boat with it, but
Right. Investment.
Yeah. So you can take that, say it was $60,000 out, and then basically you have a new loan now. Now you have a loan for $160,000 on your house. So your payment could potentially go up depending on what the interest rates are. I mean, interest rates were going down, so I don't think our payment changed all that much, even though we took cash out. It just, obviously that depends. And so that's how we got the cash to put money down on
Start
the place.
Your dream.
Yeah. So
Heck yeah.
So, and like I said, we weren't working with an agent. So I Googled sample offer letter.
Heck yeah.
I literally, I'm like, I don't know what to offer. I just offered them 10,000 below asking. I'm like, well, this sounds good. And I wrote the offer letter myself. It'd be kind of funny to look at it now, because now I actually do write legit offers. But so, and the guy accepted it, and we closed. This was all when I was 8 months pregnant with Freddie. I was really pregnant and about to start a new job. And we're like, why not buy our first rental property?
I love it. I love people that do that kind of thing, because I'm the same way. It's like, well, time's ticking,
So we closed on it a little bit. I think maybe Freddie was 2-3 weeks old or something by the time that we had closed on it. There was a couple existing tenants. There was one unit that was abandoned by a tenant and was completely destroyed and filled with stuff. You've got to problem solve
real quick.
And know that don't let those little bumps in the road and things like that get you too much, and be like, we could have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, we should have never done this. We don't know what we're doing. Yep. We could have started panicking, but we're just whatever. I go over there one day, get the stuff out. We repainted. We put in some different floors, because the previous owner had actually left us some flooring. We had to replace the carpet in there because it was disgusting. And then I think a couple of the other tenants moved out. And so then we had property management for a little bit that managed it for us. And then our property management stopped servicing Indianola. And then we just decided to manage it ourselves and save the property management fee. So right now we just self-manage it. And again, there's been bumps in the road with it. This is there's 4 studio apartments, one bedroom. They're smaller. This is low income housing, and we've had some issues before. We've had cops called and potential fire in the building. We've had some crazy things happen. And again,
but you get through them.
You do. You just really do. You just have to take a deep breath. Okay. Assess the situation. What do we need to do? And now looking back, it's fine. Everything that has happened, and there hasn't been a lot. I don't want to make it sound like it's been a disaster. It's been a great investment, honestly. We, at this point, make $1,000 a month in cash flow off of it. And that's really hard to come by. But it's older, so it's going to need some renovations in the future and things like that. But yeah, you just do it and you learn as you go.
I love
that's
that.
Another thing too, that you don't want to wait until you feel like you're completely ready and know all of the things before you do it. You learn by doing. And at this point now, we have 5 great tenants in it. We have one of the original tenants still in it. Otherwise, there's 4 new ones. And I've just placed them myself through putting a post on my Facebook and using this application I learned about, and it's been
all self-taught.
It's been good. Yeah. So we still have that to this day. And then we also, with that same down payment money, put a down payment on another place. And this was a different situation. So we've tried out different areas.
Ways of going about it.
I feel like we've done every type of real estate investment you can do. So this time, with the second property, we wanted to do what's called a BRRRR. It's just BRRR, which stands for buy, renovate, refinance, and rent. So basically the idea is that you buy a property for cheap that needs work, you renovate it, and then you do what we did to get this money that initial time. So you refinance it, do basically that cash out refinance. So when you renovate it, the property value went up a lot from when you had bought it, because now it's worth more. So basically what you do is what we had done initially with our house, except now we're doing it on that property, is you refinance it, you pull the cash out, and then you have everything out, and then you go on and you do it
For the next
again
one.
is the idea. But
Heck yeah.
it's really hard to do what would be called like a perfect BRRRR, where you are able to successfully get everything back out that you put in. We came pretty close to doing that, but we didn't get everything back out. Granted, we'll make money on it, but some of the money is still tied up in the house.
Right.
But yeah, we bought that cheap, and that was our first renovation. We totally gutted the kitchen, gutted the bathroom, refurnished.
Just the wealth of experience that
Yeah,
you guys got.
yeah.
You talk about the monetary value or the income that you'll gain.
Yep.
But the networking and the amount of people you have to speak to get the codes and the people working in your house.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff's invaluable.
Oh,
like
yeah.
You said.
Justin and I were just talking about that last night, because he's like, yeah, well, we didn't make that much money off of it. I'm like, first of all, we made money off of it. So
you didn't lose money.
Yeah, so that's good. You're like,
Hell yeah.
We came out ahead. And you can't put a price, like you said, on everything that we learned from that experience. And so we took that money back out, and then we did a lease to own. So we got a $10,000 down payment, and then we basically sold the house on contract to someone. So this person owns it, and we're basically the bank to them, sort of. It's almost like we mortgaged it to them. So we get money. He pays us each month a little bit more than what our mortgage is. So we're making some monthly cash flow off of it still to this day. And then ultimately, when he gets a mortgage through a bank, then that'll pay us off. That'll pay us off. That'll pay off the loan that we still have on it. And we'll have the rest of the money out. Because right now there's still some money tied up in it, but it's not a big deal. It's just sitting there.
All little streams add up to one big pot, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've just got messy with stuff. The thing is, with those cash out refinances, though, the way I look at it is, we didn't take that cash out and then spend it really per se, because the money is just underneath a different asset now. Like before, that money was tied to our house. Now we use it for a down payment over here. So the money's still there and we sell it. I mean, it's still there in equity. We just, it's almost like we just shifted it over. So it's not like we spent it really. We just moved it. It's kind of a different way to look at it. But when we did that renovation, we did a HELOC on our primary residence.
Getting pretty deep.
I think how we did that.
I've never even heard of that one.
Yeah, so that's a home equity line of credit. And so we still had equity in our home even when we took that cash out, because I think this was maybe a year or two later. And so it's basically like a credit card line that you can take out with your house as the leverage.
Asset.
Yeah. And so some people, this is just what we did, and maybe we're a little risky and crazy, but so some people might be like, I don't want to do that. But so basically we took the HELOC out on our primary residence, and that's how we got the money for the renovation, because we had enough money from the original cash we pulled out for the down payment, but we didn't have money for the renovation, and we spent like $50,000 on the renovation. And so and then when we did the refinance, we got that all back, but
had to figure out how to pay for it.
Yep. In the meantime, that's what we did. And I don't think that was fun. It was a learning experience, and I'm glad it's an experience that we had, because now we can kind of say we did essentially a flip. I don't think we personally have any interest in doing that again in the future. I'm sure we would get better each time, but I mean, it's just a lot of work. I'm more for that, like, passive income. Like our rental is passive. I don't have to do anything. Some people call it mailbox money. Like the checks just come to us and we're good. Granted, sometimes there's tenant issues where, since we're managing it ourselves, we haven't had any issues with our current tenants, knock on wood. They're wonderful. But otherwise it's pretty passive. You don't have to do a lot. Whereas when you're doing a renovation, everything's active. Like, you can make bigger money in the end if you do it right. But I mean, there's a lot of
work.
There's a lot of moving parts there. So
heck yeah.
When we were looking for that property to do the flip, that's when I got my first idea in my head of getting my license, because we had looked at several properties and I was like, maybe I should get my license just so that when we want to look at something, I don't always have to go and try to find a realtor to show us.
Right.
And that was my first idea of getting the license just as a supplement to growing our business.
Right.
And then I had met with a couple friends that were realtors. We have a pretty good friend that's a realtor. And he's like, I feel like you would be really good at it. And I just like, then my wheels kind of started turning again.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this only as a supplement? I think that I would actually really like this. I like helping people. I like marketing. I love real estate. I like problem solving. I get bored quickly. So the good thing about, doing these sorts of things is every deal is different. Every property is different. Yeah. So then I was like, yeah, actually, this makes sense to make this be more of a thing for me than just, something to have, kind of for fun. And so I'm actually at the end of this May leaving the school district and doing real estate, I'll say full-time-ish. We all have another baby on the way, but I did resign from my job at the school. So we're really entering a new chapter. That's kind of scary when you're leaving W-2 income job and going to
with a baby on the way.
Yeah. But I've always been one that if I feel like I need something different or I need a change, or I don't want to say like I'm unhappy now, but just maybe like a little bit bored with what I'm doing now, or I just need something to reinvigorate me, then I'm going to do something different. I think a lot of people are just kind of go through the motions, live for the weekends. And then you have that, Sunday scaries, back to work Monday. And it's just like this cyclical thing. And I'm like, I feel like made a promise to myself when I was younger that I was never going to do that. And if I don't like something or I'm not feeling fulfilled, because I've had a lot of great jobs that I've learned a lot at. I wouldn't say I really have anything I've done that I totally hate, but I do feel like I'll get bored quickly, or I'll just be longing for something different, and I'll move then. So I'm not going to stay put. So I'm really excited for this new chapter, but also scared. It is pretty scary thinking about having to replace my salary with real estate and that imposter syndrome, and you start getting in your head. And because remember, I said when I was in college for real estate, here's another example going full circle. I said, I will never be an agent.
I remember you saying that in the beginning of our conversation.
I'm too introverted, too shy. I can't do the sales thing. So it's just funny how then all of the things that I've talked about have led to this point, like starting with like the network marketing and then getting the new job, the real estate investing. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I finished in April. I got my license last April and kind of pressed in a little bit harder over the summer when I had summer off. And now I'm back to working full time. I went back to school full time in August. But I've just still been kind of doing that on the side as much as I can while still working full time. And then we'll really press into that after I'm done with this job and after this baby. We'll just kind of see. Yeah. The summer might be a little bit crazy with a July baby.
But it's all just a season. The babies grow up quickly, as you've seen with your two now.
And sometimes you got to burn the boat. So I feel like I'm kind of entering a part of sink or swim, which I can kind of smile and laugh about now. But, I'm definitely worried about it, but I know that God will provide, and just have to have hope that, it'll somehow, some way things will just come to be, and it'll be fine.
You have made the necessary steps for the path that you're about to walk.
Yeah.
You do not have to worry, Ashley. It'll all work out. Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. But I can't let you get out of here without your edition of the firing range. It's a quick this or that game.
Okay.
And you have to pick whichever one speaks to you at the current moment. There's no wrong answer. This episode of the firing range was brought to you by Brittany Ott of Brittany Elaine Photography. Mm-hmm. She's a studio based in rural Dunkerton, Iowa, specializing in lifestyle photography. She offers both posed and candid experiences which capture more real emotion and natural reactions within your family. Contact Brittany today at 319-464-2405 or visit her, BrittanyElainePhotography.com, all one word, no spaces. Check out Brittany Elaine Photography on Facebook. Without any further ado, Ash, are you ready for your episode of The Firing Range?
Yes, just whatever word. Just quickly.
I'll ask you 2 words, and you pick one of them.
Okay.
The first one is flowers or houseplants?
Houseplants.
Blonde or brunette?
Blonde.
Playing piano or singing karaoke?
Oh, singing karaoke.
Turnkey or a fixer-upper?
Turnkey, hands down.
Audio book or paperback book?
Paper.
Target or Goodwill?
Oh, Goodwill.
A mountain home or a beachfront property?
Mountain, hands down.
West Coast or the Midwest?
Midwest.
And the final one I have for you today, Blue Ridge Mountains, Des Moines Metro, or a California almond orchard?
I'm going to have to go Blue Ridge.
Heck yeah.
The almond orchard's really tempting, but if I could move it out of California.
Heck yeah. I feel the same sentiment.
I would be more inclined.
Heck
but we didn't even get to the short-term rental, I realized. But yeah, we got a cabin in Elgin, Georgia too. Yeah, that's our latest venture. So,
and I will share all that information on my social media, and I also wrap up on my website about the experience and how I came to meet. So I'll share all of that information on there with the listeners so they see the whole picture.
Yeah, there's a lot of the picture
stuff
and we're not done, but it's been a fun ride. Encourage anyone to take the first step.
I appreciate you taking your time and coming on, Ashley. I think a lot of you, I think a lot of your family, how you guys take the jump. It's not easy, there are people don't see it on the inside, the insecurities and the tough things that come about when you're trying something new. And like you said, things that you've never done before and you don't even know how to do. And you're just trying to do the best you can. And there is a ton of value in that. And I think the listeners are going to be able to relate and they're just going to love this episode. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And one more thing before you guys go, I'm wearing a Tate's Army shirt. And if you haven't listened, he was a guest on season 1. His father, Ryan Manal, talked a little bit about his experience with Tate. They have an event coming up March 5th. If you want to check it out, go to tatesarmy.org for more information. And that is all the time we have today. Thank you, Ashley.
Yes, thank you.
Special thanks to my friend Katie Hine at Mattress by Appointment, Cedar Falls, for her sponsorship of Season 2 of The World with Nate.